Hello, welcome to About Worm. Today we will be talking about the resources we have at our disposal, whether to settle an argument or to write a piece of fan fiction. There's actually quite a lot at our disposal, especially thanks to very active members of our community and Wildbow himself. So thank you for contributing to our view of your world. So there's quite a bunch of these actually, there's a lot of these. First of all, we have the timeline. This is a timeline of all that happens in canon, and it was originally on a timeline viewer, but because of the limited number of views per month, Alethiophile took it down and put it in a paste bin. This goes through everything from Scion's experience all the way to the end of the story. Next, we have the chapter synopsis. Ever wonder what exactly is in each chapter, or like find one thing for a quote, or whether you just want to read your favorite chapter? Well, thanks to Steamrick, WKZ, Low Register, and Lord Cersei, we have a chapter synopsis. So whether you need to go back and look at something you've forgotten, or whether you would like to actually find out what exactly is in Worm, spoilers and all, this would be something good for you. Next, we have the Worm Index, which is an index of all the stories written in the Worm fandom, which is a lot. And of course, this mainly focuses on sufficient velocity and space battles, but it does hold a ton. And I cannot guarantee that this actually holds every story, but it does hold an incredibly large number. We then have the Worm Quotes and Word of God repository, which is quotes from Worm and also Word of God from Wildbow. We have the free use OC bin, so this is sort of like if you have an original character or you want to use an original character, this is sort of a place to place them. Just so that people can share ideas, so like you don't have to necessarily try and come up with one if you don't want to, or you can share what you've made and let other people use them in their stories. We have the PHO interlude generator, which is a piece of really nice code written by a conceptualist, which helps in the, which helps in the obligatory PHO interlude in the story, in every story. So if you want to learn how to do that right, it's pretty good. But I think it only really works with space battles and sufficient velocity. We also have the Worm Feats and Source Thread. So it's sort of like just helps settle debates of who would do this, who would win that, who would win this fight. And it's sort of like, this person would win because we see him do this, or this person would do this. And so it's a nice way to back up your arguments with evidence, especially given the length of Worm and how impractical it is to go just read through it again just to see what you missed. Special thanks to RidTom on that. Next, we actually have a list of all the parahumans in the actual story mentioned. This is also actually edited by Wildbow, so it's pretty damn accurate to canon. If I've missed anything, there's actually something by Ack, which is the Worm Resources thread, which contains a lot of what I've already mentioned, and a lot of other resources. I'm going to move on to a few more interesting resources. There's multiple quotes by Wildbow and others, which help really with understanding the character motivations and how certain characters tick. Like, Wildbow does a really interesting post about how you should write heroes versus villains. RidTom does an interesting post about what are shards and how that all sort of works, and entities in general. Biscoff has a really insightful post on writing for the macro and for the micro level. Ryugi really does an interesting way of contrasting and comparing Brian and Taylor's motivations. Lax Creativity explores Taylor's motivations and her character in general. There's also a few other things, including PRT Quest and Weaver Dice Lausanne. Essentially, these are two pseudo-quests run by Wildbow. They also have their own resources and world building which help add to the world of Worm. Finally, for a bit of fun, we have Armsmaster's Random Excuse Generator. The point of this is to generate a code to conceal the purpose of a Cape's visit to the PRT building, or Protectorate building, as it may be, in order to ensure that they are not unmasked simply because they are, saying, "Hi, I am this Cape going to meet for this reason." The fun thing about it is that it is completely, utterly insane. For example, I swear this is the first one that's popped out. I'm a victim of crime. I'm here to reclaim my stolen, autographed, customized Eidolon-themed t-shirt. Second one. I'm a concerned citizen. I'm here to hand over an eldritch Tinkertech antelope that I found acting out the Who's on first sketch. Third one. I'm a concerned citizen. I'm here to report that my pet sugar ant has triggered with the breaker-type power to turn into a living mass of ice cream. Number 4. I'm a concerned citizen. I'm here to report that my daughter has triggered with the blaster-type power of slaughtering firstborn daughters. Now you can start to see why it's so absurd and why it's so interesting. Because it is just incredibly absurd, like, situations that I'm really surprised I actually haven't had one with the Girl Scouts involved yet. I've spent, like, half an hour just giggling at myself just reading these before, and I would recommend you at least try it for a minute or two, because a lot of these are quite something. Last but not least, I should not forget to mention the Worm Wiki. I have to really give my gratitude to those who do contributed to it, mainly Koshua and Red Tom. So thank you guys for maintaining a resource that has actually helped in a bind now and then. And finally, there is also the simplest way to ask for help. Make an account for space battles or sufficient velocity, head on over to the discussion thread, and just ask your question. I can guarantee that in 24 hours somebody will have said something in response. That's about it for this week. I'll see you guys next week with something else.